All right.
We're still okay. Now we are live. Jay Rothman, I read your bio and I think you're also in Arizona, aren't you?
I am.
I'm in Goodyear.
Oh, wow. Another
Yeah.
neighbor. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Jay, it's a privilege to meet you, and I'm real interested to see whatever motivated you to share a story in Sacred Hearts Rising. Brenda and I have been working together for a number of years, and I think I was in one of her first earliest books. So there's always that story and the connection. I helped her publish a few of her earlier books before Sacred Hearts too. So welcome to this call, and
Thank you.
tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, how much time do we have?
Well,
Yeah, that's such a loaded question. But today I'm primarily a transformational coach. I work with people, men and women, that are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, either struggling, challenged with emotional, mental, physical, or spiritual well-being. And the work I do is I share my blueprint for success. I share what worked with me. And my intention is always to inspire others that it's possible, that through having courage, they can change their life and change the trajectory of how they feel about themselves every day they wake up.
very true, and it's something that I personally had to learn too. It took a while. I published my book sharing my story probably about 5 years ago, and I named it "The Woman I Love," and it was because I had to learn to love myself first and forgive whatever had happened in the past, and it took a long time to figure it out. So it's wonderful because over the last bunch of years, there's been a lot of us sharing our stories, so that for those that are out there that are hearing this and watching this, just know that you are not alone, that there are many of us that have gone through, and we each, as Jay said, have a blueprint now for really shedding that stuff and living a wonderful and rich life. So tell us a little bit about your chapter.
Well, my chapter was written for me, by me, through just my life experiences. It's not one specific time in my life. It's more about my my lifetime that spanned decades, over 5 decades, and the story without getting into the high level or the low level details, so that you have a reason to click on the Amazon link today to purchase Kindle or the soft copy, was really about I was living the modern male American dream. Now, what I mean by that is I spent my adulthood chasing the dream, and I had experienced some significant success in my life. I mean, by all accounts, if you were to peek in at my lifestyle, it appeared as though I had it all. I had a beautiful wife, three amazing sons, a very successful career that spanned over 3+ decades. I made a lot of money. I had the fancy cars. I had the homes. I had the beautiful clothing, the vacations. We had it all. But what was driving that for me were my shadows from my past. It was my shadows from my own childhood that really was my driver for seeking success outside of myself.
So it would identify, you could have identify with that. That's how you were successful.
Yeah, and I didn't really understand that until I had literally hit my rock bottom. I was 54 years old, and my body was physically tired. And I wasn't just tired where I needed to take a nap. My body was in shutdown mode. I was near death. I was in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Beverly Hills, California. And I was out of time, and I was out of answers. And so began my healing journey. While I was in the hospital, I had my first, what some refer to as a spiritual awakening. And I got some clarity as I lay there. in tremendous pain, emotional, mental, physical pain, and understanding that I was able to ask myself, did I want to live or do I want to die? And the answer was real clear to me, was that if I wanted to live, I had to be willing to change everything in my life. I had to be willing to basically die so that I could be rebirthed. And through that process, having the courage to change, so began my healing journey. 2 days after I got released from the hospital, I I began to rebirth. The rebirthing process, which for me was the title of my chapter, is Coming Home, a man's healing journey. And so began the journey of really coming home to myself, because I had gotten lost. I gotten lost along the illusion of what the American dream was my entire life. And in the end, what it was is that it wasn't that I had just gotten sick physically, but it was that no matter how much I had achieved, no matter how many accolades, awards, bonuses, financial success I had, I was very lonely inside within myself. I was living very much in lack, feeling I wasn't happy with who I was, and I didn't know how to get out of that trap. I was seduced by a lifetime of a belief system of how I was supposed to be living my life. And what I truly lacked in the end was what some refer to as self-love. I didn't know what it could feel like to like myself, never mind love myself. And that's really where the coming home piece of the journey has been, is about learning how to first like myself and eventually falling in love with
I
myself.
think that's one of the keys is, for one thing, I've done a lot of these interviews over the last bunch of years, not only for books that I've done with people women, always women telling their stories, but here you are, a man also standing up and telling your story, and we don't see as much of that. And so you taking the lead is remarkable, and we're really happy that you have the drive and the courage to do that. And it comes from your own past story, because I think we're all the same. We all have our own stories. We process differently, perhaps, but at the same time, we do. I don't think we can live on this earth without having a story to tell. Something that rocked our world and changed and really brought us a lot of trauma and grief. But at the same time, it's that choice we take, for the choice we make to rise above it and make some changes that will lead us to living a good and happy life.
Well, that sounds beautiful, and I really respect what you just shared. I think the greatest challenge we have in society is that many of us are not aware that we do have choices. We get locked into our path, into the choices we make in our life, and we're not even aware that we have other choices. There's so many times I hear even my new clients that will say to me, well, I don't have a choice. It's what I have to do. And all that is that's a story that you're telling yourself and you keep repeating. So it becomes your perspective, which becomes your reality. I didn't think I had a choice. I had always wanted, my dream was to make it into senior management in a major corporation in America. And after 22 years in sales and marketing, I got my dream. I became a senior vice president of a multi-million-dollar company in Southern California. And the truth of the matter is, the first couple of years were beautiful. It was really exciting. We were growing revenue. We just had tremendous success. But by the time the fourth year rolled around, things changed. The economy, when we went through that deep recession back in 2008, and it was no longer fun. And when it was no longer fun, I felt very trapped. I was miserable. I was not happy, and I didn't know how to get out of it, because it was the most amount of income I had ever made in my career. And I was like, how do I now walk away from this? When this, in fact, was everything that I had worked for as an American male, living that dream, seeking all that I thought being successful in business would bring to my life. When in fact, what it brought me was, at age 48, I had a heart attack while I was traveling for business for the company.
Mm.
And that, even I referred to that as a bottom, but it wasn't enough. I needed to get sicker. So 4, 5, 6 years later, the disease that was just heart disease progressed. And by the time I woke up in 15, I had 9 major diagnoses that any one of those 9 should have and could have taken me out. And it was only then that I really started to understand. I picked up a clip early this morning. Chris Como, who's a CNN, most people know his brother's the governor of New York. And I picked up a short read. It was the only article I chose to read this morning. And he actually apparently said some things last night on his own broadcast, not on CNN, that through having the coronavirus right now, it has actually awoken him. He's had his awakening, and he's realizing that he's been, I'm going to paraphrase what he said, he's been a sellout. And as of today, he's like, he doesn't want to do what he's been doing his whole career. He feels like he's done. It's like this corona, him having that fever, him nearly dying and going through the most difficult virus experience of his life has awoken him. And he's realizing like what he thought was important in his life may not be,
Not there anymore, is it? Wow. We sometimes it feels like we sleepwalk through life sometimes.
Yes.
Without really stopping to think about where we are, who we are, what we're doing, about what we want, truly deeply want inside, what we're here for. What are we here to do? And I think all of us, there's a certain part of us that we're here to serve in a whole different way, and serve to kind of shine the light that there is a better way. And I think our world is going through crazy stuff right now, and I don't think we'll ever be the same as a result of it. But
well, it may be being not the same may be a healthy thing.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think
not for everybody, but for some.
Yeah, but I think the more of us that show that change is good, and that there is other ways of looking at things, and as we lead that way, I think that this is a wake-up call for many, many people to really stop and look at things. And how many parents have ever even spent any time with their children, let alone having their children under the roof with them for a couple months now? Or by the time this is done, it will be that way. So what a beautiful time, really. And we think about just being able the fact that we're able to speak with each other. We've never met, we've lived in the same area even, and still be able to connect and talk about these kind of things and share it in a live broadcast. It's pretty amazing. We didn't have that 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's one of the gifts of the internet. It's one of the gifts of us. We talk about as an economy. We've heard we're a global economy. Well, we're much greater than that. We are globally connected, soul to soul. I've got friends today that span the globe. I've got people that I have this type of deep conversations with on a daily basis, as far away as Australia, the UK, New Zealand, the Netherlands, even India, and of course Canada. What the beautiful thing about this moment in time for all of us is that it's a chance to get out of the fast lane, and with this extra time that we have, instead of deep diving into Netflix and binge watching TV and a news cable, if we were to just take part of that day and go inward and turn off the noise, go quiet, so that we can really take this time to get to know ourselves, perhaps take this time to get to know our children, because our children spend more time in the classrooms and in the playground than they do in our homes. And so it's an opportunity to perhaps introduce yourself to your children and to yourself in a way that we didn't know was possible, because we're
to your mate, for many of them.
Yeah. And also our partners, if we're in a relationship.
Right. And even with our extended family, how much time, that have we really spent in actually just getting to the true essence of who we really are? It's pretty amazing. I feel we're really blessed, and I don't think our world will ever be the same. I think this is an amazing time to be alive. because it's global. It's not just our city, it's not just our state, it's not just our country, it's global. And it has far-reaching effects. Well, one thing I'm finding is I work with many, many authors and getting their books published, and my business is growing well, just because people finally have the time to stop and finish what they may have started even 10 years ago. So it's a beautiful time. Oh,
It is. I'd like to just piggyback on something that we were talking about my chapter in a book and really what it meant to me and why I do the work I do today is what I teach is freedom. You see, we have this illusion that we live in freedom because we live in a country perhaps where we have more freedom than other countries. But I'm not talking about the freedom that exists on the outside of ourselves. I'm talking about the freedom within ourselves right here. And even though we have the illusion that we have free choice and free will, I had all that. But within myself, I was living in what I like to refer to as inner bondage. And inner bondage is that story that we tell ourselves that we don't have choices, that we're either stuck in a job that we're not finding fulfilling, we're stuck in a relationship that may be harmful to us or hurtful to us, or lacking respect, and we think that we have this idea because of fear that we create within our own thoughts that we don't have an escape route, we can't get out.
right.
And really what it comes down to is that I don't believe that is the truth, because you see, I had to be willing to really look at my life as I was near death and just realize that the only thing holding me back from freedom was my own thoughts. And once I was willing to just surrender my old thinking and just accept the idea that everything that I thought was the truth in my life may in fact be a lie, and everything that I thought was in fact a lie may in fact be the truth. And with that statement, it freed me. It started to give me freedom, that I didn't no longer have to live in my old belief systems that I inherited from my ancestors, my mom and dad, who I love, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-great, and so far back over 100 years.
Yeah.
Freedom for me was when I was able to take the belief systems that were taught to me and basically, in a ceremonial way, gift them back to my mom and dad and begin to create my own ideas as to my own choices and how I want to live my life and truly what's important to me. Today, I live a simple life, but it's a life of fulfillment, and I love the work that I do today. I'm no longer in corporate America. Today, my work is about inspiring others, especially men who have spent a life believing that they have to show up a certain way to be loved and to be respected. And I challenge any man that thinks that the old way is still working for them, because
I don't think it does. Mm-mm. No, and I think this is the time for that introspection. But I think for men, many men were taught that crying was a bad thing, but it isn't. Because it's a process, it's a natural process and they have to be all macho and everything, but they don't really have to be. They just need to shine the light on who they truly are.
You know what I think? I love what you just shared, Becky. I think what shining a light is that we don't have to be one way or the other.
Right.
Being both is ultimately what our partner wants in life. Is they want a man that can show up when he needs to show up and be that strength, be that beacon of light, but also know that we can show our vulnerable side, and when we show our vulnerable side, ultimately, my understanding from the women that I have spoken to over the last 4.5 years or so, they really want to see that in a man too. They want to see a man that is willing to be vulnerable and show his tears. And a lot of times today, most of my tears are tears of gratitude. They're no longer tears of pain. So when I get emotional, even last night I did a panel interview with a TV show that's going on right now called 8 Days, and I got emotional with one of the cast members, Kate from Australia. And for me, getting emotional is it's a beautiful way. It's part of healing. It doesn't have to be sadness and devastation. Tears of joy, tears of gratitude serve a beautiful purpose in life today as well. It's tears of healing.
It is. That's beautiful. What a beautiful interview this has been, and I so appreciate you that you're sharing, that you're taking the time to lead as you are, and how blessed we are to have this time to share this book. For those that are listening, if you haven't yet picked up your copy of the book, Sacred Hearts Rising, Sparks of Light, go to Amazon and just look it up. It's Sacred Hearts Rising, Sparks of Light, and read the stories, the amazing stories in this book. We've had interviews all day. We have a few more interviews to go today, but read the words and listen to the hearts of these people that are men and women both, that see the vision and the wisdom that comes from sharing our stories. And that's why we can connect. This is the connection that we all need, is to know that we're not alone out there and that there is better ways, good ways to thrive and be happy. Thank you, Jay. That was a beautiful interview.
Thank you so much for having me today, Becky. I don't know how you're doing it. You're like on a marathon. You've got multiple interviews. I do one a day. Yesterday, I did 2 on my program, and I was pretty wiped out at the end of the night. I was tired. I slept good last night.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm as the day's gone on, I'm going, oh my goodness. But it's good. It's been some really fun interviews too. I've enjoyed every one of them. So it's good.
Thank you for the invite today, and I've enjoyed our conversation, and best of luck to you in promoting Sacred Hearts Rising, Sparks of Light. Now, if your finances are really low right now because you think you don't have the money because we're out of work, I think it's less than $2. You could buy the Kindle version, you could buy the digital version, and you could read the book right here, right now, today or tonight. You don't have to wait for the soft cover copy to come in 3 or 4 days from Amazon. For less than $2, you could read this amazing book of co-authors that had the courage to step forward and step in to share their own sparks of light.
Very good. And actually, it's only 99 cents.
Boom. There you go.
I guess maybe Canadian dollars a little different, but for those that are in the U.S.
Yeah, you're right. I paid 99 cents in Arizona to pick up the digital copy today. So.
And the key is that once you've read it, take the time, especially if you've whatever reader you're reading it on, it encourages you to leave a review. And that is part of the lifeblood of success of any book. We like to go on and see what other people are saying about this book. The reviews are very crucial to the success of those that have put a lot of, maybe even some tears into the writing of these chapters. So delightful to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Stay healthy.
You too. All right, we're ending.